Howdy everyone, and welcome to my daily spoiler review for Legends of Runeterra's new upcoming fourth set. We got our second champion spoiled today, Jarvan the fourth here. So 6 mana Demacia champion with barrier that says, when you attack, you may pay my cost to summon me challenging the strongest enemy. While at first glance, Jarvan might seem a little understated for his mana cost, his effect I think is actually quite powerful. One of the ways in which you get ahead in Runeterra is through cards that let you kind of cheat or generate extra value in the priority system. And in a lot of ways, the templating that we see here on Jarvan makes him kind of a burst unit when you're on offense. So imagine it's your turn 6 and you've got the attack token. You open attacks and get to pay 6 to put Jarvan into play, effectively letting us summon this very reasonably statted unit without passing priority back to our opponent, which is very powerful. The level up requirement on Jarvan here is also super reasonable. Allies have survived 4+ strikes from enemy blockers. He notably does not have to see this happen, so this is yet another champion that can be leveling as he's in your deck or in your hand. I think there's a very likely possibility that this card comes into play leveled on 6 or level shortly thereafter. The fact that he has a barrier and he comes in challenging something, if you play him out that way, means that he's going to trigger one of his four survivals on his own. His leveled mode gets a little bit bigger and gains some extra text here. So every turn, he creates a fleeting cataclysm, and he gives himself a barrier every time he challenges an enemy. The cataclysm spell that he creates, as well as is his champion spell, is actually a really powerful effect. I like this design a lot. This says an ally starts a free attack challenging an enemy. This is basically spot removal that requires a unit to be in play. So it's got a similar-ish design to something like single combat, except it's a synergy card to enable things like Jarvan here, which again gets a bonus when he's challenging something. This type of effect is also great because it means if you use your attack token in a turn, if you didn't have the attack token, you get to still kill something. Your opponent's thing isn't just safe from your unit that could challenge them because your attack token got used up. Up next here, we have here King Jarvan III, a 3/6 tough for 7. Then when he's summoned, he draws Jarvan IV, so lets you find your powerful champion more consistently. And then this says, if Jarvan the Fourth is already in play, instead give allies Challenger and Scout, which we've seen this combination of keywords on Genevieve before, the 5/4 with Challenger and Scout, and this combination of keywords with large statted units just generates very powerful swings, especially these keywords paired with the leveled Jarvan here. When I challenge an enemy, give me barrier this round. If you have leveled Jarvan in play and you deploy Jarvan the Third, you're basically going to decimate your opponent's board. You're going to get 2 attacks with a 6/4 barrier challenger. So you're going to just chunk through 2 things that they have that have 6 defense or less, and you're not going to lose your unit in order to do it. Not to mention, whatever else you have in play that also gets these Challenger and Scout keywords. Continuing this series of cards that care about gaining Challenger but don't have Challenger themselves, we have Honored Lord here. The first time I challenge an enemy, give me barrier this round. So I imagine with cards like this and Jarvan caring about challenging things, I would imagine that Cataclysm is a actual spell you're going to want to play to synergize with these other effects. It's also notable again that these are elite units, so we've seen that kind of mono Demacia elite deck in Runeterra before, and it looks like it's going to be gaining a number of tools to potentially push up its power level, or at least let it build with a couple more options with the release of this set. Past iterations of that build have had so few actual elite units, you mostly didn't get to make deck building decisions. You just kind of put all of the elites into the deck and hope for the best. And it looks like that's not going to be the case anymore. There's looking like we're going to have enough good elite units that's going to take some time to mix and match and figure out what optimal builds of that look like, as opposed to just playing all of them. Up next, we have another card that cares about challenging things here. Pretty neat design on this. So for like an amazing stat line here, but it says the first time I challenge an enemy, transform me into Vanguard Cavalry. And this is an older card that we had previously, but another way to look at this is if you have things that are granting challenger, this effectively lets you play a 5/5 tough for 4 mana. So I wonder if this one's going to be quite powerful enough to see play. This seems like, of the things that you have to give me challenger for me to be good, this seems like maybe one of the weaker ones so far, but I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being okay. This stat line for 4 mana is very, very reasonable if there's an abundance of ways to give things like this challenger. Golden Aegis. Give an ally barrier this round, rally. Rally effects seem really dangerous to print. It feels like effects that let you rally to regain that attack token often flirt the line between either not being playable or being busted. And we've seen a number of effects. We've seen Relentless Pursuit, that's a 3 mana just rally without the barrier, see play consistently in aggressive decks. And the fact that this one gives barrier but costs more would imply that maybe this is an effect for more of a mid-range deck. So perhaps this could be good, in conjunction with something giving a unit challenger, so that way you could give your challenger unit barrier and let you attack with it again and get more value out of it. I wonder if this is an effect the mid-range deck really wants. Like, extra rallies are more aggressively slanted, but maybe this is a tool that lets you close against control decks while also letting you be a little bit more controlling against aggressive decks if you pair it with challenger units. Pertinent Squire here seems like a very important enabler for a lot of the other cards we saw in the card drop today. So this is a 2/2 for 1 that says, when I'm summoned, if you behold an elite, create a tattered banner in hand. So again, behold means if you have an elite in your hand or in play, which means you can play this Squire out on turn 1 and get that tattered banner generation. And the banner is one of those enablers for those others. I need things to give me challenger cards. This says the next time you summon an ally this round, grant it challenger. Notable on this one that there's no rarity symbol in the bottom middle, so this is not a collectible card that you can actually put in your deck. The way that you get this is through generation with things like Pertinent Squire, and I would imagine that this will be. There's going to be some tuning and testing to figure out what elites needs to look like, but I would be very surprised if Pertinent Squire here wasn't in an auto 3 of in these decks. You want curve filler at the bottom end of your aggressively slanted mid-range deck, and this cost on this enabler basically for things like, Jarvan down the line, and even things like Honored Lord here seems very important. Lastly, we have kind of a mediocre spell. Slow, grant an ally +1/+1 for 1. I don't see, feels like this feels like a kind of card that I'm not really used to seeing in Runeterra. It just kind of looks like a bad card. I don't know if maybe there's something coming up that like having a 1 mana spell is useful for, but this type of effect doesn't really seem worth its mana cost at slow. Like if this was a fast spell or a burst spell, it seems like it would be absurd because it would be a grant and it would be a combat trick. But the fact that you have to do this in advance makes what you're getting for the mana cost feel pretty lackluster overall. At any rate, if you didn't see my spoiler review on Renekton, that is up here on YouTube as well, and I'll be doing regular spoiler reviews as we head on into their set release on March 4th. And then when March 4th happens, we'll be back to streaming Runeterra probably daily again once we get things mixed up. I am going to be going back to doing some Runeterra in the mornings this week, not every day, but I was reminded on Friday that expeditions are a lot of fun, so I'm going to fit a couple of those in, but expect a return to doing a little bit more consistent Runeterra stuff from me once this next card set drops. Thanks for watching today, folks, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.